to the Builure Pulse, your go-to destination for all things Salesforce. I'm your host, Inshu Misra, founder and director at Builure with more than 30 years of experience within the Salesforce ecosystem. Join us as we explore a day in the life of Salesforce professionals. From Salesforce DevOps architects to CRM analytics specialists, we'll uncover the insights, challenges, and triumphs that define their daily experiences. So get ready for engaging conversations, expert insights, and actionable advice to boost your Salesforce journey. Whether you're looking to advance your career, streamline your processes, or simply stay ahead of the curve, join us on this exciting exploration of the Salesforce ecosystem. We have Joshua Lenton here, a CRM analytics expert. He has been in the data analytics domain for the last few years, and we are so thankful to him for sharing his experiences with us. So without much delay, let's talk about him. Welcome, Josh. Please introduce yourself and share your overall experience about how you did come across Salesforce CRM Analytics and what has been your journey so far.
Sure. And so, hi, Josh. Have you heard the odd weird pronunciation? I am from New Zealand, even though I've been in Australia for a while now. So I started my company sort of 10 years ago. And then around 5 years ago, and I worked in the Salesforce CRM space. And around 5 years ago, there's sort of an opportunity that we were given as Salesforce does, gives you a product to play around with as a freebie and to see, to entice you. And then I was always interested in analytics. So I was sort of ready at the stage of my career that I was looking to get in there. So I was just at the right place at the right time, and I was deemed the person to get into CRM analytics, or back then it was Einstein Analytics still. So that's how far back. I wasn't quite when it was called Wave. I didn't use it as Wave. I only used it as Einstein Analytics, but there was still a few references to Wave in some of the API calls. You might even see in some of the errors, you can still see Wave in there. So I know that it's had a history of name changing. And then, so been here now. So back to the Einstein Analytics, to Tableau CRM, to CRM Analytics, name changes. And here we are today. So what, 5 years later? Was it 5 years? 4 or 5 years? It was during when COVID, to be honest. It was actually, I remember it was during COVID when I kind of got into it.
Yeah. So it's been a long time. And you and I actually learned it together.
Yeah. Well, when I say we learned it together, I certainly learned more of you than the other way around.
Yeah, like from our different levels, we learn different things. So it's been a great journey so far. What about today from your experience? How do you see the platform has evolved in these many years, and what is the best feature that you would like to highlight?
Yes, well, I'm sure Salesforce will disagree with me on what they think the best feature is, because there's probably this new awesome one that I haven't worked out how to use yet. It's probably always the caveat. There's all these awesome features that you didn't even realize that could have been there. But if we talk about what are the most useful ones that we use, I'd probably go on a different angle here. And you may guess where I'm going down there is just the way that we've been able to use it for a transformation layer and to bypass middleware. So, a lot of, again, I'll be generic in the company, being referring to the company sometimes, but, the middleware and ESB can take a while, and there's a backlog of work, and there's so many different breakpoints that can go in there. So we've kind of used some architecture within Salesforce. There's an output connector, which means you can write back to Salesforce. And then, so I should point out that doing that for the transformation layer, but also then enabling Marketing Cloud. So Marketing Cloud and CRM Analytics can't directly chat well without, again, complicated integrations, but using all native connections and syncs, we're able to write data back to CRM, and then Marketing Clouds can connect straight into CRM, and then boom, there we go. We've created that circle. So now we have this like ever evolving circle between Marketing Cloud, CRM Analytics, and Salesforce that gives us our own complete ecosystem. So I guess that's where I come in with that's my take on the feature that is most not user friendly, but the most gain we get out of using, really. I mean, there's obviously some great features of like, hey, you can create dashboards and embed dashboards into your CRM and that sort of stuff. But if I talk about how we use it the most, it's that layer.
And that's exactly what we want to know, how you find it interesting and
Mm,
what is the feature that you like most about CRM analytics. And
mm,
to add to it, like that's a really good feature. Like transformation is something that is missing from all the other data analytics tools because we do a lot of transformation in all the other applications as well, including CRM analytics. But the ability to write it back to where we're retrieving the data from, and like mostly use CRM for all our other activities. And if we can get some other tool, the data analytics tool, where we're doing all this calculation to write it back to our CRM without much coding involved,
mm. And
it's an amazing feature.
for sure. And I think interesting
Yeah.
enough, Salesforce themselves don't necessarily promote, not, I don't think even on purpose. I just think they
Yeah.
just see it, they promote it as a visualization tool, but it is that
Yeah.
has a whole lot of other things you can do with it as well.
Exactly. And it was launched as I think it was launched as a pilot feature, and
Mm.
then they made it generally available. And this is the best
Yeah.
thing I think they did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No
there
doubt.
are some caveats, obviously,
Of
but
course.
like from my experience, it's been a game changing experience.
For sure. And everyone who wants, you want autonomy, right? You don't want to have to go every time you want a new connection.
Exactly.
You want to go to the middleware team and see if it fits
Yeah.
into sprints or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah, and actually it removes a lot of layers and gives you that control, like you said, autonomy to
Yeah,
actually do your own task in your own time.
exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. So, moving on to next, would you be able to walk us through a typical day in your role as a Salesforce CRM analytics expert?
Sure. Well, I mean, I probably have two hats on every day. One is, again, with, I guess, as I mentioned before, with creating that transformation layer, creating big transformation layers means you're almost creating your own, well, you are creating your own platform application that you have to look after as well, right? Doesn't mean that things can't go wrong in it, even though that we are obviously I test everything and put it through, but you can never, if you know enough data, you can get random data in all the time. And if you don't stay on top of it, we have some quite complex calculations that use all sorts of different data sources that we have no control over. So the data could come in all sorts of ways occasionally. You might agree with it with a format, but that may not
Yeah.
come in that agreed format one day from it, as you will know. So where I go with that is a lot of my day maybe just spent on queries from people going, "Hey, this doesn't look right," or "Hey, there's change coming in." So that's one head is sort of again just looking after the solution, and the other one is just working with the business on what they want to do and seeing how we can use what we already have or knowing the potential of what CRMA can do to help them meet new stuff. I mean, that's the far more exciting stuff. I mean, I, I get more and more, the people ask for dashboards, but I kind of like, I'm a little anti dashboard sometimes. Like, what are you going to, I've built many a dashboard that no one's ever looked at again. So to try and come up with ways of, yes, you can make some awesome dashboards, but before making those best dashboards, that's when I say I like to look at the business of like, okay, what do you want to do here? And also why and how are you going to use that data? I think often people go, why are you doing it? Because we want to find out, okay, but how are you actually then going to use that dashboard? You're going to look at it every day? Or you
Yeah.
go, no, we only want to look at it once a month. Well, maybe a dashboard's not the right way then. Maybe so I like to do that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, and like does it also involve doing any maintenance activities or like
Yeah,
is
I
it
mean,
something that
yes.
yeah.
Again, we're tying into that first part of it. There is maintenance involved we've tried to get as we've got more mature with our solution, we're looking at building our own suite of dashboards. After saying I don't love dashboards, dashboards certainly have their place, especially if they're dashboards you create for yourself where you can help monitor
Yeah.
things. So there's all those sorts of things that as we're maturing, realizing that, hey, to
Mm.
try and be proactive, creating
Yeah.
alerts, there's all sorts of stuff that CRM can do around that part. So yeah, it's all kind
Yeah.
of those things all kind of come hand in hand as well.
Yeah. And like you said, it's like it comes down to basically user adoption. And
Hmm.
if we're creating the things, we need to just like be sure they're being used and they're being used for the right purpose. And that
Exactly.
gives us a window to the future, like what sort of dashboards we should be creating in the future
Mhm.
and what sort of transformations we should be putting into place. And yeah, that really is interesting about your role, like going through, all those queries and, working with data all the time. How do you
Mm.
find it? Like, do you find it challenging or do you find it, you love whatever you're doing? Like, do you
I
have a
mean,
feeling
I guess
about it?
there's always, there's that's it. As a whole, I enjoy my job. I love
Yes, sir.
playing around with data and
Yeah.
finding things, and I like, and again, being
Investigating.
investigating. Hey, I would have loved to be
Yeah.
a detective. I love actually, as much as I hate it, I like investigating problems and finding out that the problem wasn't caused by anything I did. That's my favorite. When you investigate, you're
Yeah.
like, yes, that wasn't me. That was,
Yeah.
so I do like investigating a problem and just following the breadcrumb and finding where, so I've always like that part. And I like seeing the data and just
Yeah.
you make something out of nothing. You make something out of all these tiny little bricks and then you go here
Yeah.
and providing insights or analytics to, your colleagues that they actually use as actionable insights. That's a good
Mhm.
feeling to know you
Yeah.
kind of feel like you're actually doing something constructive. But then that's like that's most of the time. But there's your classic things that you don't always enjoy about, the job as well. So
Documentation. Yeah.
don't like documentation. No one likes documentation. I hate having to clean data over it. Like we're out of
I
other
know.
people's lazy. I don't mind that that's part of the job, but when I see
Yeah.
other people's laziness or lack of attention to details, that then
Mhm.
means I have to go back and fix things. I must say I don't
Yeah.
enjoy that part of that job. And then again, the other part, yeah, is that sometimes, you know, people coming up with these solutions, or so they never should come up with a solution anyway, come up with requirements for that it could be solutions that they haven't really brought into. So you've created. So on the flip side, it's a great feeling to see people, love what you do, but seeing
Yeah.
people not necessarily even because of what you have produced,
Mm.
but just
Yeah.
never harms really in something. So you kind of like, why am I even creating this dashboard that's never going to be looked at? That's the part of the job I don't enjoy because it's like, it's a work,
Yeah.
like it's worth your time. But in general, I love playing with data analytics.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the part of, investigating everything, being
Yeah.
detective.
You've done some detecting in
I
that ace.
know. Yeah. Well, we constantly do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Thanks for sharing that. So, given the ever evolving world of Salesforce ecosystem, like every now and then they're releasing new features. Like, how do you keep yourself updated? And do you read any articles? Do you go to any events? Attend any webinars? Like,
I,
what's your take on
yeah.
it?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, all those things, like there's certainly for CRM analytics in general. If this is I think you used to, I don't know if you still do this, that Salesforce blogger. That was very
Yeah.
helpful for me in the early days of like getting I think Salesforce blogger, but it's about CRM
Mhm.
analytics. There's a
Yeah.
girl, Rika, I think her name was, started that, some
Yeah.
from Salesforce. And no, there's other contributors to that, but that was always very interesting as a tool to understand how to do things, but also
Yeah.
just you can also reading that, and that comes out once a week, stay on top of that. So,
Yeah.
I don't, comes out once a week.
Yeah.
Occasionally I don't read it, but that's been my one way of like, that's my one that I've always stuck with. The rest of
Mm.
them, yeah, look, just when things pop up. I often sometimes find I've always found this with Salesforce related conferences
Mm.
that 95% of it I don't particularly enjoy. And it's all like, blah, 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 jump on the bandwagon. But however,
Mm.
I think every
Mhm.
single one I've ever gone to, I've always just
Mm.
found one little nugget that's applicable to me. So that's why I
Yeah.
go to those things. So I think if you go into a mindset of you're not going to go, wow,
Mm.
wow, 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 all day long, you're just trying to
Yeah.
go. I'm kind of more of a like, not for me, not that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you might, when I say one, you might get, more than
Mm.
one. But as long
Yeah.
as it comes to that mindset of you're not everything's,
Mm.
because everyone's at different levels in their journey as well, right? Like some
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and have different levels of data. I think often in the Salesforce conferences, they're talking about people that have the cleanest, most amazing data of all time when they're sending those, they do those big demos, kind of like,
Mm.
well, our data is definitely not that clean in advance, so we can't do that. But so I wanted to like go back, get like maybe just take one of those little parts of the journey that we could do. So, and yeah, and other like, even looking at going to ones, like I've been to the Tableau one, and Tableau and CRM
Mhm.
closer and
Yeah.
closer anyway. But
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of Tableau ones, even though I don't necessarily use Tableau, but even using going to ones like that give you ideas of, because it's theory, it's still theory.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you might not have the exact function to do it, but you can
Mm.
find a different
It,
path to get to that same result.
yeah, it's mainly about data analytics. And if they're
Mm.
talking about on some other tool, we can actually get some ideas from them and
Yeah,
then repurpose them in our
exactly. Yes.
solution.
Yeah. So you don't just need to have CRM analytics
Yeah.
training or whatever. Just going to chats about all sorts of different tools gives you
Yeah.
ideas on what
And
else you can do.
that's a really good idea. Like people just like keep focusing on the tool specific knowledge and then they forget about like the core principles. And if they focus on core principles, they will be able to utilize the tool even better. So yeah, so that's a really good point. And I really like that, mindset of taking at least one thing from that webinar. Like it, it's not always the case that you get all the things and like everything is relevant to you, but you just need to find what's relevant to you. And like you should need to go to the events with that mindset. And that's a really good point. And we should be like, focusing on networking and, you start attending more events. And it's for the audience as well. Like you mentioned that about the Salesforce blogger. I also used to go through those websites, like other than trailhead exercises. And
Mm,
if you're going to read some blogs or some articles, Salesforce blogger is a really good, resource if
yeah,
you want to learn CRM analytics.
definitely.
Yeah, so that's about like learning and experiences. And now let's move on to the trends. What trends do you see in 2024 in data analytics space? What role does AI, like Salesforce is talking about AI, data and trust. So what role
Mm,
does AI have to play and how do you see CRM analytics and Einstein models being efficiently utilized?
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the trend is I think the different trend now is, I'm probably going to say the obvious here, but I'll state it anyway. With the advent of ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
suddenly brought it to everyone's knowledge, right? So now you have business sponsors and business managers who now have in their objectives for work to have one AI, have
Yeah.
implemented one AI thing for the week or something. It's like those are the sorts of
Yeah.
I was being waffly on purpose because those are the type of
Mm,
waffly requirements to be like, hey, I
mm,
have to have one AI thing in before the end of the year. You might get a requirement.
yeah.
So where I'm saying the obvious is that it's it's just going to become second nature of that's most every initiative you put in,
Mm,
you have to have some kind of AI ML lens
mm,
over it just to see what you can do because I
mm,
mean you could actually AI and ML are great because they actually do great stuff. But there's also a little element of it is like picking a box to make sure you've investigated it to show to people that, hey, we did look at that lens and this is probably not quite the right example.
mm,
This is not quite appropriate but the one thing I like about it as well is to, hey, we can't do this unless you invest the time in the quality of data and more data. So I think the trend again for me as well is you're just going to see the more and more people understand that
mm,
the quality of the data and the richness you
mm,
have of the data will
yeah.
actually determine how good your intelligence
Predictions
is.
are yes,
Predictions,
yes.
like you can't do it. So I think we're at a stage now where they just ask for it. But
Mm,
the trend I'm seeing, certainly within my company and two other companies, is
yeah,
the
yeah.
trend is that the business layer,
Mm,
we already knew this in our layer, right? It's just the business layer is starting to, because we tell them all the time, hey, the data's going to be better in quality and blah, blah, blah. They're not worried. But now it comes attached to their, so really, I guess that trend is talking about the business and IT are coming closer and closer together, right? With that layer,
yeah,
that degree of separation is coming, especially with around the data point. I mean,
yeah,
again, this is not necessarily a trend to 2024, but it's that
mm,
ever growing trend that you see is going
yeah.
way quicker.
And you're
Um,
right. Actually, we see AI existed for for I don't know for so long, and like right
Forever.
after having Chat GPT, we are now talking about it. So it's basically it's coming to that trend that people are now like talking more about AI. We've been like I've been working with AI for like I don't know how many years, and only in 2023 I saw that every single person was talking about AI, and
Yeah.
it actually like. having it as a business checkbox has actually worked positively for us. Now we're actually focusing on our data. Like previously, people were just like not concerned. Like in many organizations, like the one activity that we get to do is like clean the data. And
Mm.
everywhere, people are not concerned about, having a right quality data. And that's why they need to hire people like us to, go and
Thank
do
you.
the data cleansing activity. Because in order to have the right predictions, you have to have a good quality data. And like, it only depends that the predictions only can be, better if your quality of data is better. So that's really good. So any advice that you would like to share with someone who is starting their career within CRMA space, or they want to transition into this role?
Sure. I mean, I can give from my point of view, which I said earlier on,
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
for someone who was sort of in the right place at the right time. So, but I could
Mhm.
probably give you, I think I can still give from two angles. So if you're in a position where you might have Salesforce, but you don't have any analytics
Mhm.
and you're interested, get yourself
Mhm.
aligned, get a free
Yeah.
license and show yourself, to show you're the one. If you're interested, just, hey, I want to do it. That you just put forward to your manager, put it in your
Mhm.
goals for the year. I want to do analytics. They are all about making sure you reach your goals. If you're at a company that's using that properly, obviously, I know there's some smaller companies that may not be relevant, but most managers are there to help you with your goals, especially goals that are going to align with the company's goals. So if you can find the company's goals and sort of align that back to your goal that help leads into the company goal with that idea of, then you can, off the back of that, go, hey, what if we get just one license for CRM analytics and play around with it? Like that's one
Yeah.
idea I would suggest if you're in an area where it's not already available. Or any other, and the same goes for any other tool. Again, what I'm saying when I'm talking about tool, being agnostic to tools here, that's the CRM analytics. You can do that with anything that you want to do. Then if you're just starting out, it's just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
I know that's the same in pretty much every discipline, but I'm only where I am now because I've spent hours on one tiny query that just didn't work for a week and just keep coming back to it and asking some experts, like some other people asking someone on this call occasionally for help or looking it up.
Mhm.
But, you know, I guess I'm giving that generic advice
Mhm.
about that applies to any discipline, but you're only really going to get good by just keep
Yeah.
trying, learning and Googling and, ChatGPT and all of these tools went around, a few years ago. But even then, that's a new tool of like, hey, how do I do this in
Mhm.
SQL or whatever? You'll get some not bad answers. Those are the way to teach yourself and start learning. I mean, trailheads, yeah. I mean, trailheads are fine, but I feel like when I did the trailheads at the start, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was doing that, when you're going through the steps without understanding what you're doing. So
Mhm. Yeah.
you learn how to do it a little bit, then go back to do the trailhead because then you kind of got that foundation. But when you're doing the trailheads without a foundation of actually playing around with the tool, that's for me anyway. I've found it. You're just going through the motions.
And
Um,
that's really like, even though you're saying it's generic, but still it's a really good piece of advice. Like if you're transitioning from any other role, the first thing that you need to do is like talk to your manager. And if you're supported there, that's the beginning. And if you were like starting in the EMA space, the first
mm,
thing is that you need to do is practice. And
yeah,
best way to practice it is, can go to Trailhead, create your own developer edition org that has CRMA supported, and you can just, start practicing it and reading about the blogs, and in that way you can learn any
another
technology.
another little trick that, I mean, again, I'm not
Mhm.
doing this so much now, but I used it. I learned this years ago, actually, when I was trying to teach myself VLOOKUPs.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who told me, so I can't give that person credit, but I'll just
Mhm.
claim I made it up myself. But it was like when you're using fake data, you know,
Mhm.
put some fake data in there that's really means something to you. So,
Yeah.
for example, with the VLOOKUPs back in the day, I'd put my rugby team, like the whole New Zealand All Black rugby team, and what number what number they were. So I had to do a VLOOKUP. When I was practicing my VLOOKUP, I was making sure I'd get that name to bring their right number in. I know that sounds silly, but because then you're starting to actually understand it, like, right, okay, I know that that's a number. How do I use that to get that number through? So where I'm going with that is I also did a little bit in CRM analytics, and you're playing around with that trailhead. If you're finding a little bit boring and can't get your head into, put some data, make up some fake data that interest you. And then it becomes a bit more fun because you're doing analytics on a topic of interest to you. That's my
Nice.
only other tip
Absolutely.
for something that is, if you're getting a bit bored with the data itself, that might be just because the subject matter is boring, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good advice. And like rugby means so much to you. There are
Yeah.
other things that mean different
Yeah.
things to different people. And if we're learning it with what we relate to, we
Mm.
would learn faster. So that's a really good way of learning.
Mhm.
Not only the analytics everywhere.
Oh, yeah, everything. That's what I mean. I mean,
Yeah,
I did that with a VLOOKUP back in the day. So I
yeah,
kind of have used that throughout as I've moved along.
that's a great way. Thank you for sharing that.
Some people have different motivations. My motivation is because I enjoy doing data analytics. If you have to find your motivation, I guess. If you're motivated to just try and work out why you want to do it. Like, do
Yeah.
you want to do it because you like technology? We'll get into the technology side of things and then it'll still get you there. But for me, I like the analytics. So I really want to get to doing cool analytics and finding patterns. Well, I know to get there, I have to learn the technology. Whereas someone else's motivation might be that is like learning technology. Whereas I don't care about the technology that much. Yeah, I like what it can do rather than the mechanics of the technology. You just use it as a tool. So yeah, I guess
Mm.
find out what you like and how you want to get there, and just try and make it as interesting as possible and joke around with
Yeah.
people if you like joking around. Otherwise you go crazy. And once you get the whinging and the joke out of the way, and then you're right. Okay, right. I'm ready to do the investigating and get this sorted.
So thank you so much for
No worries.
joining us and sharing
No
your
problem.
experiences with us, Josh. It was
All good.
lovely to talk to you, and we'll see you for potentially in the next episode. Thank you for tuning into the Builure Pulse. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. If you found value in today's episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving us a review on your preferred platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more listeners like you. Follow us on our socials for more resources and updates on upcoming episodes. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Join us on social media, join the Builure community to continue the discussion and connect with fellow Salesforce enthusiasts. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing in the world of Salesforce. Thank you for listening.